It has been a long summer and a lot has been going on. Parties, babies. It was a lot. So I decided to take a trip. I decided to catch a jet bus, with the goal in mind to spend a cool 48 hours with my daughter in the city that never sleeps. If you don't know what a jet bus is, it is a luxury bus that travels right now just from DC to New York and back. It is a wonderful ride, and I knew that it would be 4 hours where I could relax, and I even brought a book. I started reading Yellow Wife on this trip, and little did I know that this book would stick with me and be in the back of my mind my entire trip. Yellow Wife by Sadiqa Johnson, a book about a mixed race woman born into slavery and how she goes from living a somewhat sheltered life to experiencing the horror of living at a slave jail. While this is a story about slavery, and while at times it can be a gut-wrenching read, it's also a beautifully written story from a different point of view, based on real-life occurrences. It's a story that definitely put things in perspective for me. I lived this life that I live, but I kept thinking about the women in this book. Oh my gosh. This book. I have so much to say about this book. When I started editing this video, I had only read 120 pages of the book. On the first leg of my trip from DC to New York, I read 120 pages. I could not put it down. It was a 4-hour ride. I did not sleep. I took a break to snack and went right back to the book. That's how good this is. I have now read the entire thing, and I just can't stop thinking about it, you guys. The way this book has put things in perspective for me, as a woman, as a Black woman, as a woman in America and our unique history, there's just so much to say. So while this is a story about slavery, it's also a beautifully written story. It's also written from a different point of view than you normally get when you're reading stories like this, historical fiction like this. Very different point of view. It's really from a woman's perspective, which is so refreshing. If a genre like this could be refreshing, it's refreshing. You can relate. I can relate much more to this main character than I think I've ever related to a main character, especially from history. This story is based on real life occurrences. Obviously, the author put her own spin on things and embellishments, but they're not far-fetched at all. It's so plausible that a lot of these things could have happened, and more than likely did. Maybe not in the same setting, but definitely throughout the history of slavery. Definitely trigger warnings in this one. So if SA is something that bothers you, if violence is something that bothers you, if very harsh conditions are something that bothers you, bodily fluids, I would skip this one. I would, because it's very candid in that way. But on a personal level, this story put some things in focus for me, and it made me see some things differently, and it confirmed the way that I see some things in life. And I'm not going to beat around the bush about that. I may see things a lot differently than other people who watch this review. You may not agree, and that's okay. One of the things that we can all say that we all have as individuals is our own personal experience. So I bring to this review or this reading vlog my personal experience and my perspective. So welcome to Book Talk, and also I guess a mini travel vlog. I guess it's kind of both. It's going to be a very different reading vlog. I hope you enjoy it. So before we actually get to New York, let me give you a little bit of a background on this book, like really quickly. So we meet Phoebe Dolores Brown. It's very important that you know that she has a full name. She is on a plantation. She is very sheltered. She is half white, half Black. She is the slave owner's daughter. I don't think that's a spoiler. I don't think I'm giving anything away. She lives a pretty sheltered life. the apple of her aunt's eye until her aunt passes, her white aunt. And then eventually the master, her dad, he marries a wife. He takes a wife. And of course, the wife hates her. The wife hates her mother because the master is enamored with her mother. And so she takes the opportunity to get rid of Phoebe. And Phoebe ends up going down south. The plantation is in Virginia. She ends up going further down south to Richmond, Virginia, to end up at the most notorious slave jail ever, where the owner of the jail decides that he is enamored with her and she has to survive. Phoebe is considered very beautiful. It is alluded to several times throughout the book that beauty is a curse for a slave girl, and Phoebe was no exception. I didn't post this video of me eating because I think that I look anything like Phoebe. I don't. Phoebe was considered mixed race. Her father was the master, her mother a slave. Based on how Phoebe's described in the book, she probably looked a lot like these ladies that you may recognize. She, under the right circumstances, she could probably pass for white under perfect circumstances, but it was clear that everyone knew that Phoebe was definitely mixed race. We will come to find in the book that this affords her certain opportunities, but is also, as I mentioned earlier, a curse. So with it being a 4-hour bus ride into New York, we left at like 9:30 in the morning, and we were told there would be snacks on the bus, but the snacks were like snacky snacks, like chips and soda, and not anything meal like. So of course the first thing that we did once we got settled in our hotel room was found a place to eat. We ate at Cafe Habana, which is a mixture of Mexican and Cuban food. It was really good and a good like first night's food offering. Just something that we both liked, something that would fill our tummies and give us some energy, because of course we arrived in the middle of the day. And what does one do when one arrives in New York? You have to see what's around you. You have to walk around and see the sights, get your bearings, shop. So this is the cutest hotel room, but it's also the smallest hotel room. It's not the most beautiful hotel room that I've ever been in, or even like the cutest one I've ever been in, but it is very cute. And I like it. It's just very tiny. And they lied when they said this was a queen size bed. It's a full queen. It's not a queen. But that's okay. 2 nights. And it's just me and baby girl. So we gonna make it do what it do. It'll be like glamping. It'll be fun. But this is the view, which is probably the most spectacular thing about this room. We're on the 14th floor, which hubby would never. I still don't understand how the man can jump out of airplanes, but he doesn't want to stay above the 8th floor of a hotel. It's mind-boggling. And this is what I mean when I say perspective. This hotel room is 214 square feet, something like that. I think that's what it said on the website. It's clean, it's cute, it's got technology. It is by no means a palace, but it's really funny. If I hadn't read the book on the way, or started reading the book on the way to New York City, I think that I would have gotten to this hotel room and I would have been like, man, my bedroom is bigger than this whole hotel room, because it is. I do realize that that's a privilege. But Phoebe, even on the plantation, when she was in her home where she felt sheltered, she shared a room with her mom. She shared a bed with her mom. She shared her aunt's old bed after her mom died. When the new mistress came to the plantation, her father's wife, or the master's wife, came to the plantation, she made sure that Phoebe's life was very uncomfortable. At one point, one of the servants that served the new wife passed away, and Phoebe had to take over for her. She had to be, in essence, a lady's maid. And neither of them, Phoebe nor did the new wife, want that to happen. Neither one of them wanted for Phoebe to be in that position. And to punish Phoebe, she made Phoebe sleep in a closet. The closet was so small that at night she would have to sleep with her feet out in the hallway. Obviously, this is a different time that we live in, thank God. But that perspective, that perspective. This room was definitely not worth the price that I paid for it. But the fact that I could pay for it, the fact that it was 200 square feet that I was sharing with my daughter for 2 nights, but 200 square feet of comfort, as comfortable as a hotel room can be. It was clean. It was in a beautiful building with amenities. There was maid service. I wasn't having to clean up after anyone. Someone was coming around to straighten up after me. And that was kind of an underlying theme for me the whole time that I was there, the whole time that I was in New York. I am grateful that I live in the time that I live in, because living now at this time, it would have been very different for me had I lived during slavery. And I don't take that for granted. So our first night in New York, we had a good late lunch. We got some snacks on the rooftop, which I didn't show here. And then we decided to head to sleep. And honestly, I can't wait to get back on the bus going back down south, because I want to know what happens with Phoebe. But in the meantime, I'll be enjoying my trip. In part 2 of my reading vlog, I will tell you a little bit more about Yellow Wife, and we will spend day 2 in New York. See you in the next one.